Wait a minute. Alright, here I am. Hi, everybody. I'm Skip Alsheimer. Welcome to the AV Geeks Lunchtime Streaming Show, where we watch old 16mm films. And this last one was Chesapeake, Mother of Waters, which showed some pretty great footage, probably from the late 20s, early 30s of Chesapeake Bay, and specifically the fishing industry that was in the bay. That was silent, and that came from the Mogul Brothers collection, but I haven't had a chance to look it up and see if it actually showed up in that catalog that I found recently. But, yeah, it's kind of great. This next film, Encyclopedia Britannica. They did a series where they looked at the different parts of an orchestra, and we've shown brass choir. Well, here's the string choir. And it's beautiful color. Enjoy.
In the modern symphony orchestra, the string choir is the largest section. The string instruments are the backbone of the entire orchestra. With their great flexibility and range of tone, the strings form the solid base upon which the conductor can bring to life the great works of symphonic music. The string choir of the symphony orchestra is made up of violins of different sizes. The bigger they are, the deeper they play. The tone range of the strings begins with the double basses. They play the lowest notes in the orchestra. Above the double basses is the violoncello section. Of all instruments, the cello has the widest tone range, sometimes singing the bass, sometimes the baritone, sometimes reaching up into the tenor range. These deep string voices blend beautifully to form the foundation of the string choir. The mellow middle voice of the string choir comes from the violas. The violins provide the leading voice of the orchestra and are the largest section of the string choir. The string choir was once the basis of all orchestral music. Clustered around the harpsichord player, who also acted as conductor, they played much of the instrumental music of the 17th and early 18th centuries, like this Christmas concerto by the Italian composer Corelli, one of the fathers of the string orchestra. Observe how rich Mozart's Little Night Music sounds when played by over 50 string instruments. A large string orchestra is usually seated in this way. The first violin section at the left side of the stage, the second violins at the right side, the violas behind the second violins, the violoncello section in the center, and the double basses at the rear. Because of the versatility of the string instruments, composers are continually writing music for the string orchestra alone. You're hearing Tchaikovsky's Serenade for Strings. The players in the string choir can make sounds not only with the bow, but also by plucking the strings, called pizzicato. The tone of the string instruments can also be changed mechanically by the use of a metal or plastic comb called a sordino. Strings can even become rhythm instruments when used in this somewhat unusual way. However, the principal function of the string choir is not to play by itself, but to serve as the foundation of the entire symphony orchestra. To illustrate the place of strings in the orchestra, let us first hear the strings play alone a popular symphonic march. And now, hear the same melody played by the other members of the orchestra without the strings. Now it will sound as if played by a concert band, which is a group of wind instruments balanced without the strings. Hear now the richness and fullness of tone of the symphony orchestra when the string choir joins the other instruments. A fine illustration of the use of strings in the modern symphony orchestra is the tone poem The Moldau by the Czech composer Frederick Smetana. In this tone poem, the orchestra is painting a picture in sound of the river Moldau as it flows proudly across a historic plain of Central Europe.
Here's a picture of a dry cell. Nothing you'd jump at to paste in your footlocker. But that cylinder can work magic like Aladdin's lamp. It lights lamps. It supplies power for radios. It even rings doorbells. Here's another picture, a storage battery. You wouldn't write home for this snapshot either. But take that battery, add a few more, and you've got the electrical energy that drives one of these deep-sea killers after a Jap convoy. Picture number 3, a gent named Alessandro Volta. Now, maybe you wouldn't grab your flashlight to look at him after. You might not have lights. He's the scientist who found that chemical energy could be transformed into electrical energy. Volta worked out an experiment like this. You fill a container with a solution of dilute sulfuric acid. Put a piece of zinc in the acid, and then a piece of copper. It was almost 150 years ago that Volta did this. But what he found still holds good. The chemical gets to work on the two metals. Now, what happens? Well, attach a piece of wire to each of the metals. Connect a bulb, and you'll get an electric current. There's your proof, electricity. Because Volta worked this out, any device that generates electricity from chemical action is now called a Voltaic cell. In any Voltaic cell, the plates are called the electrodes, and the chemical solution is called the electrolyte. Let's see what happens first with only the zinc plate taking a bath in the acid. There's a chemical reaction. The zinc starts to replace the hydrogen in the solution. Those bubbles are the hydrogen that's being replaced. After a while, you can see that the acid is making a good meal of the zinc. Something else is happening at the same time. As the zinc is eaten up, some of its electrons take off and help form the hydrogen bubbles. Now let's see what happens when the copper is put in the acid and both plates are connected in a circuit. This time the electrons detour through the wire and lamp to the copper electrode and then travel to the bubbles. This electronic flow is what gives you an electric current. And so, from the chemical energy that naturally exists in the materials that make up a voltaic cell, you get electrical energy. You can rig up a voltaic cell with any acid, alkali or salt, and any two unlike conductors, but your voltage depends on the combination of materials. For instance, this copper and zinc in dilute sulfuric acid gives you about 0.8 of a volt. On the other hand, with carbon, and make a carbon zinc cell, and you'll get more voltage. There, the carbon zinc cell gives you about 1.5 volts. Now, while the combination of materials does affect your voltage, the size of those materials does not. Look, here are two cells. Both have the same combination, carbon and zinc in dilute sulfuric acid. Obviously, one is much smaller than the other. But the small one gives you as much as the other, 1.5 volts. You can have a cell as big as a pub tent, but as long as it's made of these same materials, you'll get the same voltage. That doesn't mean you can't increase voltage. You can, by connecting the electrodes of two or more cells in series, which means just what it says, one after another. First, connect the zinc electrode of the large cell to the carbon electrode of the small one. Now, all you do is connect the other two electrodes to the voltmeter, and you can read the combined voltage. You had 1.5 volts before, now you have 3. There's 1.5 volts for one cell, and 3 volts for the two cells in series. While the size of a cell doesn't make a bit of difference in the amount of voltage, it makes all the difference in the world in the amount of current. The bigger the electrodes, the more amperes you can get, because more surface is exposed to the chemicals. Let's measure the current. The big cell gives you 0.2 of an ampere. The small cell gives you only 1/10 of an ampere. So that's the story. Current depends on size. Voltage depends on combination. Now let's see what a cell does when the current's being used. First, we'll connect a voltmeter. Now connect a resistor that will draw current. Watch the voltage drop twice. There. The first drop is swift. The second is gradual. You get the first quick drop because the cell itself puts up resistance to the current. There are several things that cause this resistance. For instance, the liquid and what it's made of. Then there are the electrodes, what they're made of. How big they are. How far apart they are. The age of the cell counts and how much it's been used. All this resistance inside the cell is called internal resistance. And that's what caused the big drop in voltage when you draw current. The second slow drop is caused by hydrogen bubbles forming at the copper electrode. These bubbles insulate the copper. The more bubbles that cover the surface, the more resistance to the current. So the voltage drops lower and lower. This is called polarization. If you remove that insulation by brushing away the bubbles, the voltage goes up again. The principles of the Voltaic cell are used in the storage battery. Everything that goes on inside a Voltaic cell goes on inside a storage battery because it's simply a Voltaic cell with a lot of plates connected together. The positive plates form one electrode and the negative plates form the other. To keep from touching, they're separated by an insulating material. They're built like this to save space, to cut down internal resistance, and to step up the current. These batteries have hard rubber containers. This one has 3 cells, hooked together by burned-on lead connectors. This makes a tough, compact battery that can take quite a beating in the field. However, a good thing about a storage battery is that when the power is used up, you don't have to throw it on the junk pile. You can recharge it. An ordinary lead-acid battery shows just how this works. The positive electrode, the dark one, is made of lead peroxide. The negative of spongy lead. And the electrolyte of dilute sulfuric acid. Now, as the cell discharges, the surfaces of both electrodes are gradually turned into lead sulfate, and the acid is gradually turned into water. Just the same, although the chemicals change form, none of them escape from the cell. Now shoot a current through the cell in the reverse direction, and you reverse the procedure. The cell is changed back to its original combination: lead peroxide, spongy lead, and sulfuric acid. Just because you can recharge a lead-acid cell, don't wait until the cell is exhausted. Stall a little too long, and the battery will become sulfated. The surfaces of the electrodes will become completely covered with lead sulfate, which is a non-conductor. And that means you'll never be able to recharge that battery. A battery can become sulfated even when it's just sitting on the shelf. The chemicals inside never stop working. For permanent use, such as fixed radio stations, cells are housed in glass containers, just so you can watch them closely for sulfation. To prevent sulfation, you've got to check your batteries regularly. How? Well, one way is with a hydrometer. A hydrometer tests the specific gravity of the electrolyte, which is a fancy way of saying it finds out just how much water has formed in the cell. Put the tip in one of the cells, squeeze the bulb, and keep your eye on the scale. 1275. Good. The standard for most batteries is 1270. Anything under means you've got to watch the battery like a hawk. And if it drops below 1170, recharge at once. There's another way of checking a battery by using a voltmeter. When you test with a voltmeter, make sure the battery is delivering its rated current. Connect a resistor to the battery which will pull the rated amount of current. You should get at least 2 volts for each cell. That is, 2 volts for each pair of electrodes. The reason the battery must be working when you test it is that even a half-shot cell will read 2 volts when no current is being pulled. Another type of Voltaic cell is the primary or dry cell. This can't be recharged. If one of these goes bad, get a new one. A dry cell has a cardboard case for insulation and protection, but inside that is the real container for the cell. This is made of zinc and is the negative electrode. The positive electrode is a stick of carbon. The filler, a mixture of finely crushed coke and manganese dioxide, is a depolarizer. It absorbs the hydrogen bubbles which would otherwise hang onto the positive electrode and insulate it. The manganese dioxide is kept away from the zinc by a layer of blotting paper. The whole works are soaked with a solution of sal ammoniac, and that's your electrolyte. So you see, the cell really isn't dry, it's more like a paste. In fact, if actually it dried out, it would be useless. To guard against that, the whole works is made airtight. Dry cells come in different sizes for different purposes. For A battery use in a radio set like this, you use these BA23 cells. One of these gives you about 1.5 volts. The flashlights these soldiers are using obviously call for a smaller cell. So when you get a dry cell, make sure to choose the size that'll fit your equipment and give you the amount of voltage you need. These soldiers, by the way, are going to tear down their equipment because they're breaking up camp for a month or longer. When you're in that spot, be sure that you remove any batteries you've been using. Why? Because even if a cell is not being used, the zinc container will corrode by natural chemical action. That gives the electrolyte a chance to leak out and a chance to damage your equipment pretty seriously. The reason a cell will go to pot, even if it's not in use, is that there are impurities in the materials. In any case, you can't expect a dry cell to last more than 12 to 18 months, even though you keep it on a shelf. You have to use a voltmeter to check a dry cell, and when you do, make sure that the cell is delivering rated current, just as with the storage battery. Turn on the current. This cell registers 1 volt. If the cell is good, its voltage shouldn't be less than 1.4 volts. This cell is no good. You've got to replace it with a new one. This one is okay. Test all the extra cells you've got on hand, and test every cell before you take it into the field. Now let's go over the whole thing. Here's the basic principle of the Voltaic cell. 2 different conductors in an electrolyte give you electric current. The storage battery is a practical Voltaic cell. It should be tested frequently with a hydrometer or with a voltmeter to see if it needs charging. Use the storage battery when you need comparatively large amounts of voltage and amperage, as in trucks and radio stations. Check dry cells with a voltmeter, but be sure that the current is on when you do it. Use the dry cell when you need small amounts, as in flashlights and some radios. Replace bad ones immediately to ensure efficiency. And don't leave batteries in while the sets are stored away. Keep those batteries in condition, and you'll keep your equipment working.
The moral of the story is don't pick up a phone where you think you know the phone number, but you're not sure. So I answered the phone just before we film ended, thinking it was one person that I had an appointment with today after the show, and it wasn't. It was somebody totally different that I had never met before, and I couldn't really get him off the phone. So I apologize for showing Voltaic cell, dry cell battery storage, or storage battery, without a little bit of heads up. Anyway, so that was a Signal Corps film, and Signal Corps was a great place that a lot of educational filmmakers cut their teeth when they were in the Army. They learned how to shoot films, they learned how to shoot instructional films, and then they went and worked for Encyclopedia Britannica, Coronet, and other entities, and then sometimes actually formed their own companies. So World War II was kind of where 16 millimeter was getting a lot of traction as far as training goes. And then what happened afterwards, there was all the surplus 16 millimeter equipment and cameras, and they gave the projectors to schools, much to the complaint of people that were selling new projectors, like Bell and Howell. But what that meant then was that there was all these schools that had the equipment to show films, which was great for people that made educational films, so that they were able to actually distribute to a lot of schools, because more schools had them. So there you go. There's a quick little thing about the Signal Corps and how important it was to educational films. So behind me, we have a scanner that has some films on it. I don't normally do this, but somebody was like, please show some 70s stuff, some 70s commercials. So this is a reel of PSAs, public service announcements, and commercials from the 70s. I might have shown clips from some of these over the years. I'm not sure. I didn't show the whole reel, I don't think. I don't see any documentation that tells me that. So here is, let's change the text to PSAs reel. Is it 9? Yeah. Reel 9. So these were all originally, I got them from Portland. I was a person there, filmmaker, who got them from somebody who used to work at a Portland TV station, an Oregon TV station, and had them in his closet. And so he gave them to my friend, the filmmaker, who then used them for a project and then passed them on to me. And then we built them up on big cores so that we could watch them without having to constantly thread up little 50-foot or 100-foot reels. So here it is. PSA Reel 9. Enjoy.
The blessing of health. For some, it is a faith in life itself. For others, it is a faith from within. For many, it is a faith in a strength beyond their own. The American Medical Association urges you to let the faith that sustains you grow strong. This has been a public service message on behalf of the American Medical Association and your local medical society.
Are you an alcoholic?
You're not in any condition to drive.
Sorry, friend.
Dick Van Dyke, a good time Charlie until the morning after. alcoholic.
You're not in any condition to drive.
Sorry, friend.
Dick Van Dyke, a good time Charlie until the morning after.
Come here. I gotta show you something. Look, my playmate has a new tooth. It's a good, strong tooth because her mother knew how to take care of herself. That's right, Theodore. That tooth and others that she'll be getting later began forming about 7 months before she was born. Following the advice of her physician and dentist about nutrition sure paid off. Those are the bare facts from this station and the American Dental Association.
ABC Wide World of Entertainment, a different kind of late-night show. Wide World in concert. Top stars of the rock pop world live in concert. Wide World Mystery. Outstanding mystery and suspense shows featuring top stars in original productions. Wide World Specials.
He was a complex figure, filled with contradiction. He would love one woman and marry another. He was born to wealth, and his early years were spent as a dandy, a gambler, and an adventurer. And yet he would emerge as the father of a nation and decide the fate of the world at a battle called Yorktown. He was George Washington, the man who turned the world upside down.
Cecil B. DeMille's The 10 Commandments, a special first-time on television presentation of the Academy Award-winning motion picture epic, starring Charlton Heston as Moses and Yul Brynner as the Pharaoh.
If there is one more plague on Egypt, it is by your word that God will bring it.
Also starring Edward G. Robinson.
Was it because there were no graves in Egypt that you took us away to die in the wilderness?
In every city, there are the lawful and the lawless. These are the men who protect one from the other.
Keep her out of there. It could be a powder keg.
Carl Malden, Michael Douglas, the streets of San Francisco. Harry O is a private kind of cop. He takes a case when he wants to, not when he has to.
Harry, it's my only child. Well, then have some trust.
David Jansen is Harry O. The streets of San Francisco. Harry O. Thursdays on ABC.
Modern medical technology has given rise to a stormy controversy.
When I came through medical school, We didn't have this problem because if you got sick, you lived or died.
Now there's often no clearly defined line between life and death.
A person can be kept alive indefinitely.
When does death come? Who decides? These and other disturbing questions examined on ABC News Close-Up, The Right to Die.
There's more to living than walking from the gate to the parking lot every day. If you've got what it takes, you can be someone special in the new Navy. You can even take up to 6 months to report after you enlist. Find out more from your Navy recruiter or call 800-841-8000. That's 800-841-8000. The new Navy. Think about it.
Dear Mom, here are my latest pictures.
Imagine, my son Jimmy's in London.
I even go to class on board ship.
He got good marks in high school, you know, but he says Navy training is a real education. The Navy's been good for Jimmy. He's a lot more mature and settled down. Sure, I miss having him around the house, but I'm glad he joined up for his sake.
Someone you know can be someone special in the new Navy.
Minority, 60 seconds.
Ours must be a Navy family that recognizes no artificial barriers of race, color, or religion. There's no black Navy, no white Navy, just one Navy, the United States Navy. We specially invite you to join our team of highly trained seamen, airmen, technicians. Our family offers you bigger opportunities every day.
You are someone special in the Navy. You can be what you want to be right now. In the new Navy. In the new Navy.
All right, face the front.
This is no ordinary lineup. It's a lineup of nut-nuts. People mad about the completely different, rich roasted flavor of new Skippy peanuts, cashews, and mixed nuts. Nut-nuts are everywhere. New nuts with a rich roasted flavor from Skippy.
Monday morning, and Gordon has a customer to see 200 miles away. And Joanne is taking little Jimmy to the dentist. For them, and millions of other families, 2 cars are a must, and a major expense in the household budget. Hello, I'm Ed Reimers, here to tell you about one good way to cut the cost of owning 2 cars. It's this, the Allstate 2-car discount. Here's how it works. When you insure 2 or more cars with an Allstate policy, you get a substantial savings on each car you insure. So if you own 2 cars, then see an Allstate agent about the Allstate 2-car discount.
Talk to the good hands people. You're in good hands with Allstate.
Papermate has built a pen that's waterproof, shockproof, dustproof, blobproof, and skip-proof. A pen that keeps on writing no matter what. Papermate.
Now get a shockproof, waterproof, leak-proof, skip-proof Papermate pen at a cut price during the Papermate Super Sale.
You may have been a curly-haired baby, but baby, now, wow, pow! Now there's Curl Free, the hair straightener for girls who really need it. Curl Free straightens hair that's uptight, relaxes it, makes it easy to control, so you can get any new hairdo, big girl style. If you're a curly-haired baby, get Curl Free, the hair straightener for big girls who really need it. Curl Free.
I think it has a boldness, Alice, a strength that reflects its symbolic role in our society.
Yes, Charles, but there is a serenity there.
Uh-huh.
A serenity that stems from its compassion.
Words. Words have no meanings. Only people have meanings. That's what the American Red Cross is all about. People. People like you, helping people like you. The united way.
United States savings bonds can really make it happen.
Riverside Raceway, the Grand Prix. The winner, Bruce McLaren. His gasoline, Union Oil's powerful Royal 76 Premium. The same Royal 76 you get at any Union Oil station. Not a penny more, and powerful enough to make a difference.
The 1930s, a time when it wasn't easy for a couple of travelers to make ends meet.
We don't have enough money for a tune-up. That is, we're thinking of paying for it.
You got a 10 for another 5. Yeah. Yes, sir. You must be about ready to move up into management.
Addie and Mose, all they keep getting is a paper move.
What you see on ABC this fall, you'll be talking about tomorrow.
The DAV field service units are rolling again, and one of these disabled American veterans' mobile offices will be in your area soon to help veterans and their families. If you were injured or disabled during military duty, you can get help with problems concerning disability compensation, education, medical care, and other benefits. For dates and locations of the service units, check your local newspaper or call your DAV National Service Office at this number. The Disabled American Veterans Traveling Field Service Units are coming to help disabled veterans and their families. For schedules, call the nearest DAV National Service Office.
A cardinal of the Catholic Church intervenes to save 600 Jewish children, refugees from Nazi Germany. Raymond Burr stars as Cardinal Angelo Roncalli.
in a dramatization of a true story from the life of Pope John the 23rd. A man whose name was John.
It's fight or give yourselves over to Tiger.
Dennis Weaver.
Can he be trusted? I hardly think so.
Ida Lupino.
Tigerfish 3, on course to the top of the world. Rock Hudson, Ernest Borgnine, Patrick McGowan, Jim Brown. Ice Station Zebra.
Sunday on ABC.
As you all know, there's been an accident on the post.
Something got to me and my sheep, and it killed my boy. Now the Army's all over my ranch. I want to know what happened.
The Army called it an accident. He called it murder. George C. Scott, Rage.
Dr. Berry of the Manned Spacecraft Center in Houston, Texas. I have astronaut Ken Mattingly with me, who has a special interest in both moon flight and the dreaded effects of the rubella virus.
Travel to the moon is only one of today's challenges. Future adventures and their challenges will require a generation equipped with healthy bodies and sound minds.
We need to protect future generations, for all should have the chance of sharing these adventures of life. Rubella in an expectant mother threatens that chance by causing birth defects. We now have a vaccine to prevent this tragedy.
This vaccine is available to children today as a one-time shot. Let's stamp out rubella by having all children receive their vaccinations today.
I guess you could call me the ghost of kitchen past. I've served this household well, but last week I was retired to the garage. What bothers me is that while I'm stored, I can be dangerous to children. If a child climbs inside and closes my door, he can suffocate in 10 minutes. But I can be made safe by one of these 4 easy methods. For a free instruction booklet, write Aham 20 North Wacker, Chicago 60606.
Recently, there's been some rather peculiar behavior among the employees at the Skippy Nut House. They've become nuts, uncontrollably mad about the completely different, rich roasted flavor of new Skippy peanuts, cashews, and mixed nuts. New, nuts with rich roasted flavor from Skippy.
Shelley Winters, Belinda J. Montgomery.
Are you still having your nightmares? No.
You are his daughter.
He is Satan. No.
The Great Niagara lured her victims. The Grant family rescued them. But who would save the Grants?
It doesn't care if it cripples you or kills you or lets you win.
I care.
I have to do it, Lois.
But you'll kill yourself.
Richard Boone. The Great Niagara.
What does it mean?
Hope,
Compassion,
charity,
humanity,
understanding,
generosity.
love.
Words. Words have no meanings. Only people have meanings. That's what the American Red Cross is all about. People. People like you helping people like you. The united way.
He's the bravest of the King's Musketeers.
What does your eminence suggest? Kill him.
And the most accommodating.
Allow me to aid in your decision.
Panache. Then,
Suppose you tell me how you're going to make a switch in front of 30 distinguished guests.
on assignment for the U.S. government. Their identity unknown. Their mission top secret. High risk. Panache. High risk.
Today's National Guardsmen. They're the new Minutemen. They belong to the country. They belong to the community. And maybe you should be one of them. The National Guard. It could be the most important part-time job in America.
The Guard belongs. The Guard belongs. The Guard belongs to us all. Maybe you belong to the Guard.
People say, what's the National Guard all about? I say we're like America's first Minutemen. They were civilians, ready to protect their country. Our guardsmen are civilians too. Men and women who train to protect the good things about America. Like freedom and what it means to you. Guardsmen use their military training to help people in the community too. The way we see it, this could be the most important part-time job in America.
Today's National Guardsmen. They're the new Minutemen. They belong to the country. They belong to the community. And maybe you should be one of them.
The Guard belongs. The Guard belongs. The Guard belongs to us all. Maybe you belong to the Guard. Maybe you belong to the Guard.
Local letters need zip codes every bit as much as out-of-town letters, and you can find local zip codes right here in your phone book.
Below Pikes Peak, in the forests of Colorado, 50 volunteers from across the United States will blaze 8 new miles for hiking on the Colorado Trail. These families are testing the facilities in advance. First, they learn how to use a compass and a map. Their compass has a rectangular base plate for drawing straight lines. This Volunteer Conservation Corps is a service of the National Hiking and Ski Touring Association. They'll set up a base camp and run backpack excursions from there, working 20 hours weekly for 2 weeks, with the rest of that time at leisure. Families who answered the ad for volunteers said they welcome a chance to give to the environment. The pioneer spirit lives on.
None of us ever gave it a thought that the children might be not your own.
How do you get people to accept?
The more people there are to love, the more love there is to go around.
Shirley Jones,
What have I done to you?
the real story of the family nobody wanted.
Thank you, God, for this good food, and help Mom get well quick. Amen.
I never thought my world could begin to look like this. I never thought moving through my world could suddenly be like this. But my doctor told me I have MS, multiple sclerosis, the great crippler of young adults. The impulses which activate my nerves are short-circuited. No one knows why. No one has a cure. So now I wait and hope that research will find the answer to MS. I'm not alone. I believe a cure will be found through the work of the National Multiple Sclerosis Society. People working together to help people with MS, and with your help, to end MS. Of course you'd know that, if you were me. If you need help with MS, or if you would like to help fight MS, call this number free, 800-243-6000.
Lick Cancer. Send your contribution to cancer. Care of the postmaster in your town.
Throughout the ages, man shaved his whiskers to reflect the prevailing whim of fashion. The razor, however, varied little from its ancient knife-like form. It required a steady hand and constant sharpening. For many men, the day began with a visit to the barber shop, a custom both time-consuming and expensive. Then, in 1895, a traveling salesman named King C. Gillette had an inspiration. A double-edged, disposable blade safety razor. Simple and inexpensive enough for anyone to use. Gillette's razor changed the face of the world. Gillette's ingenuity founded an industry and one of the world's foremost companies. This has been a presentation of the Chamber of Commerce of the United States, in celebration of America's bicentennial.
Hello, I'm Lord Green.
If you're a nurse looking for one good reason to join the Air Force, take your choice. There's the opportunity to specialize, even become a flight nurse. The chance to experience almost every phase of nursing and work with top professionals. The officer's pay and the privileges you receive. Exciting worldwide travel. Yes, they're all good reasons to reach out and find yourself in the Air Force Nurse Corps.
The payroll savings plan makes savings easy as...
Take stock in America. Buy bonds.
It was the turn of the century when young men came to the city
My name is Ben Harvey. I'm with...
to find fame and fortune.
Touch me. I'm on fire.
What?
Don't you know anything about my kind of woman?
You know what a sex maniac does?
Beau Bridges lives life when life was lived. Gaily, gaily. Cecil B. DeMille's The 10 Commandments, a special first-time on television presentation of the Academy Award-winning motion picture epic, starring Charlton Heston as Moses and Yul Brynner as the Pharaoh.
If there is one more plague on Egypt, it is by your word that God will bring it.
Also starring Edward G. Robinson.
Was it because there were no graves in Egypt that you took us away to die in the wilderness?
We're looking for computer specialists, lab technicians, plumbers,
Carpenters,
electricians, art illustrators, statisticians,
crew chiefs,
accountants, dental technicians, air controllers, security police,
auto mechanics,
fire chiefs.
If you can qualify for these Air Force jobs, you can get specialized training in a skill that's yours for life. You can earn good pay while you're learning, and you'll receive many extra benefits. For the location of your nearest Air Force recruiter, call toll-free 800-447-4700.
Radar,
TV repair,
jet mechanics, jobs in the air, draftsman, cook, air operations, trained for a lifetime occupation. Look up, be looked up to in the Air Force.
That's a great toe tapper right there. I think this is before Air Force and the Army started using like hit songs. So writing jingles for the Air Force or the National Guard are really great. Ryan, did you want to come in too?
Oh, no.
Okay. Anyways, I want to introduce Colin, who is my intern this semester, and it's his last day. But he helped demuck films. He helped resplice films that we showed on this show. So let's give him a hand. He is graduating soon, and we look forward to his future. So anyways, thanks everybody for tuning in today. If you like what you saw, give us some coffee at ko-fi.com/avgeeks, patreon.com/avgeeks. You can watch our channel at avgeeks.com, hit the thumbs up, like button, etc. So if you had one sentence to describe what it's like to work at AV Geeks, what would it be? And it can be derogatory too. You could say dusty.
Definitely a little dusty and messy, but it's been a lot of fun. It's been surprising all the different things I've seen. So, a lot of fun.
Nice. Good. So he'll get a good recommendation letter when he applies for a job and needs a recommendation. No, just kidding. Yeah, well, thanks for dealing with all the chaos. He actually made things a little less chaotic in the stacks, so I very much appreciate that. Actually got some things inventoried, etc. So thank you so much for that. Everybody have a great weekend. We'll be back on Monday. It's going to be awesome. Everybody take care. Bye.